Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be comparing both the Canon R6 and the R6 Mark II, looking at the cameras side by side, looking at the features they have on them, and then we'll be discussing which one you should go for. Is it worth paying the extra for the new model? So let's get right in now, compare the specs, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we've got both cameras here laid out neatly in front of us to kind of look at a side-by-side comparison. As you can see, like, body shape physically isn't that much different. You still got the front buttons on here. Everything's where it usually would be. The grips are the same, so ignore those. We're going to talk just about the cameras themselves. And we'll start with the Mark I on this side here. Weight of the body itself is 680 compared to the Mark II, which is 670. Both are full frame mirrorless, but the physical sensor size, you've got 20 megapixels and 24.2, so a nice little uplift on the Mark II. You've got frames per second wise, maximum shutter on mirrorless 30-30, so they're both the same. You've got 1/8000 second maximum shutter speed. Maximum ISO is the same as well at 102,400. Both take the same cards, so they've both got a redundancy slot on the side. Both take the faster SD XC cards, and I always shoot redundant, so I occupy both slots on there. Moving to the back of the camera, I'll look at the screens here. Both got a nice variofocal, pretty much the same screen. There is a little bit higher pixel density on the Mark II, but both very usable. Both work exactly the same way. You've got your full tilt up and down. I always shoot with the screens in like that, and then when I review them, I always flick out like this, just so I can see what's going on. What I found is by shooting with the screen flipped in like this, I gain a good sort of half a day of usage with the cameras, because the screen's not always on. You lose battery life anyway by having the EVF on all the time, but by moving the screens in too, you will actually save yourself an absolute ton of battery life. Going back as well though to some more specs, you have got 4K on both cameras, but the Mark II has a slightly higher resolution on there. It goes to 4096 by 12160 instead of 3840 by 2160 on the Mark I, and you get 180 FPS maximum frame rate rather than 120. Both incredibly good at 4K though. I have shot some things with the Mark I and been no issues at all, and been super happy with it. But overall, if you look at the top, that's where you're going to see probably most of the differences. So the on-off button's been moved. The Mark I, it's on its own over here. The Mark II, it's been moved over, almost like exactly the same as what my R10 has, where it's just above the control dial here. You still have your button to start and stop video, but the lock has been moved onto the dial here rather than a separate button. And then they've moved your video photo mode over to where the on-off switch is on the Mark I. You also have the hot shoe, which is powered, so on certain accessories you can get power to your devices through the camera rather than using a cable to go through. Personally, my photography, I don't tend to use flashes or anything like that, so it's not something that's very useful for me. But if you're vlogging with this camera, you need to put the mic on there. There is an accessory that will allow you to do that without putting the cable through, which is quite neat. Both use the same EF to R adapters, which I've got on both cameras here. And I say both use the same battery grip too. So in the future, if you ever bought the R6 Mark I and wanted to upgrade to the R2, and you bought the battery grip, just sell the body, pop the battery grip over to your new camera there. Back of the camera itself physically, it's unchanged. All the buttons are pretty much exactly where they are. The toggle hot top hats changed a little bit. It's not got any raised parts now where your finger sits into it. It's kind of pretty flush there. But overall, as you can see, the looks of both cameras pretty much fairly identical. So if you're used to a Canon camera, you're going to have no problems moving over to the Mark II there. Okay, so you've compared both specs of the two cameras, and obviously the R6 Mark II, you are getting that slightly newer technology, so the autofocus is a little bit crisper, a little bit faster, and just slightly better image quality. Now, pricing wise is very interesting. You can look at places like MPB, and the R6 ranges between about £950 to £1,700, depending on condition. And the R6 Mark II, you're ranging between £1,700 and £22,000, second-hand market-wise. So there is a crossover on that top point. So you can get a like new R6 or a good R6 Mark II. Now, if you're looking at that crossover point, I would say definitely go with the Mark II. It's going to have a little bit more wear to it, yes, but it's still an incredibly new camera, and you're going to get those extra benefits of having that newer camera. So it's definitely worth there. If you're looking at more of that £1,000 price point, then for sure you're going to have to go with the R6. You can also look at the R7 if you want something with a crop factor. But out of these two cameras, obviously you're going to limit yourself down to the R6 Mark I, and you'll still be happy with the camera overall. It's just going to be a little bit more heavily used. But with mirrorless cameras, because they don't have a physical moving shutter like a DSLR, you don't get that shutter wear like you used to. So it being a little bit more used doesn't matter too much, as long as it's not being literally thrown down a set of stairs or beaten up or anything like that. Then it's absolutely fine to go with those slightly more used cameras. Like some of the kit I've got was classed when I bought it as well used. Like my 1DX, even that when I bought that was classed as well used, and I've put another 300,000 shutters onto that camera and still works absolutely fine. So sometimes don't be afraid to buy those sort of more well used cameras. Just look at the imagery, look at the condition. If it looks like it's been thrown around a bit, then don't bother. But if it's well used because of the shutter or the usage they're classing it as, but the body condition looks good, you know you've got a well used but well looked after camera as well. So those are the things I say don't be too worried about and too scared about going for. And places like MPB and WEX and stuff like that, they'll offer you that 6-month warranty anyway, and anything major goes wrong is going to go wrong within that first 6 months of ownership. So I literally get my kit, use it as much as I physically can, because say I'm going to get that those issues crop up in that first 6 months. But out of the two cameras, say if you can afford it and you're looking at £1,700 sort of mark, then sure, go with the Mark II. Anything below that, you're going to have to go with the Mark I, but you aren't going to be disappointed at all. I would also recommend going with the battery grips for both cameras. They use the same battery grip no matter what, so if you did buy the R6 now and then wanted to upgrade to the Mark II, you can still use that camera grip and move it across. They are expensive, but in my opinion, definitely worth it. So you let me know, what would you go for? Would you, even if you had that budget of sort of £1,700, would you still go with a Mark I, save a bit of money and maybe buy another lens, or buy the grip for the bit of extra money you've got sat there? Or would you put everything into having the Mark II? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you've bought out of those two. And also, if you want to comment down below with links to your imagery, it's always nice to see that. It's nice to share with the community and see what images you are getting on your cameras. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe, comment and like, and I will catch you in the next one. See you again soon. Goodbye.